You buy the goats a beer. You gave him a hazy IPA. Obviously, the United States is a vast country. It's thousands of miles from coast to coast. I think it's almost 3,000 miles from New York to LA. But if there's something that we learned after all of our travel, sometimes you gotta explore a little bit beyond the biggest city or the go-to destination. We are really going to try to explore our country like we never have before. We're gonna try to get to as many states as we can because we're gonna be driving all over the place. And in the course of doing that, doing some house sitting through trusted house sitters. So it's hard to see everything, but we're gonna try to see as much as we can. And it basically starts right now. I've packed up my car, if you wanna come see, to the absolute brim. I'm moving all of my stuff out of the house that I grew up in, which my mom is now moving out of. So this is my last time at this house. And basically everything I own is in this car. And I'm gonna be making my way to Sydney's hometown, Fairfield, Iowa. So state number 1, Wisconsin, my home state. Along this journey, I really wanna track not only all the states that we go to, but the mileage that we go to on this car, because this isn't the world's youngest car. This is a 2008 Lexus ES350 that I hope will last us this whole time because we're gonna be putting some miles on it. It's at about 167,000 miles. So I will be sure to track from this point up until the World Cup starts, wherever we may be during that time, to see how many miles we can rack up here in our home country. Let the adventures of the United States begin. Quick check-in, I've made my first stop of the journey. I am about 2 hours outside of Milwaukee. I had to work my way through Madison, Wisconsin. And Madison is where our big university is. So while it's not as big as Milwaukee, it's the capital city of Wisconsin. There was really bad traffic going through there, and normally even at this time, it's not too bad to get through Madison. So I was looking it up to see if there was any sort of special thing going on. It turns out it is the World Bratwurst Festival here in Madison this weekend. Kind of amazing that the World Brat Festival, a German sausage, could take place here in the United States. But there you go for some of the Europeans out there that say that the Americans lack culture. We have World Brat Fest here in Wisconsin. I have about an hour to go until the Iowa border, and then that will be our second state. I'll be going through the city of Dubuque, which is right on the Mississippi River. The Mississippi River is the longest river in the United States. It actually cuts it almost kind of right in half, not exactly in half, but it does go all the way from the north in Minnesota to the south in New Orleans, Louisiana, and then eventually empties out into the Gulf of Mexico. So it is a pretty significant river for our country, and we actually cross it. Sydney and I have done this all the time, going back and forth from Iowa to Wisconsin, her family to my family. We cross the Mississippi River every time we do that, and it's just a gigantic river, and a lot of times there's bald eagles that like to hang out around there because I guess it's where they hunt, it's where they can grab fish out of the water because there's some pretty big fish in the river too. So yeah, not able to do all that much recording as I'm driving, obviously. I wish I could film some of this area around Dubuque and just the entire Mississippi because it is really cool. There's these giant bluffs that are on the side of each river, and there's actually some really, really big houses. People build like mansions that look over the river, and it's really beautiful. It's actually, in a part of the country where there's not a lot going on. This river is pretty cool. So I'll be crossing that in about an hour, and then another 2.5 hours to Sydney's town once I cross the border. Well, our time in state number 2 was short-lived. By the time I came into Iowa, it was dark, so I couldn't really film anything. But we had a really nice time here. Sydney has a 9-hole golf course kind of right by her house. And we did a lot of golfing. We've golfed maybe 3 or 4 days in a row. I can't really remember. And since the course is right by our house, sometimes we can just go over there in the evenings when no one is there. And that's really nice to kind of just have the place to ourselves. We can hit balls, practice, stuff like that. And last night there were so many deer. There's so many deer in this town. It's amazing. And they're not like most deer where you see them and then they scamper. These things just kind of hang around. They don't care. They're so used to people. It's really funny that they're kind of like urbanized deer. There was one hole where they just completely took over the green and we couldn't even really hit it until they were gone. There's sometimes some jokes made at Iowa's expense that there's really nothing going on here, but that's definitely not true. The world's largest truck stop is here. If you've heard of Caitlin Clark, she's revolutionizing the sport of women's basketball. She hails from Iowa. Before I met Sydney, I knew absolutely nothing about Iowa, and I think I came through here one time just on like a road trip. So it was nice to over the past 5 or 6 years just to really get to know the state. There's a lot more going on here than people realize, and that's kind of the theme of our road trip, is seeing what we're missing, the places that some people call flyover states, places where you think that there's not a lot going on. There's always something to explore. But that's state number 2 for you. State number 3 will be Missouri, which is another wonderful state, and we will be there in about an hour or so. 3 hours to go until we are in Oklahoma City. We are in the vast prairie land of Kansas. Kansas is state number 4 of our trip. And I have to say, at first I was kind of like, not a lot to see in Kansas, you know? It felt like I was driving in, I could easily be driving in Wisconsin or Minnesota or Iowa. But now that we're here in the prairies, this actually looks very different from anything I've seen. And we're gonna have a pretty big stretch of prairie coming up until we get to Wichita. So these are, again, just like the hidden moments I've been looking for. I didn't think a drive through Kansas would be all that exciting, and maybe it still isn't, but these prairie lands are unique territory, unique terrain, and definitely a cool thing to see. Welcome to Oklahoma City, a place that Sydney and I have never been to before today. And to be completely honest with you, a place that was never really on our radar as a place to visit. But it turns out that it was the perfect halfway point for our drive down to Austin, Texas, where we're going to be stationed for the better part of the next month. So we figured, why not just stop in Oklahoma City, break up the drive, and see what this place has to offer. Now there's an event tonight that has a huge part in why we decided to come here. In fact, if it wasn't going on, I don't know if we would have had the same plan. But tonight is Game 5 of the Western Conference Finals between the Oklahoma City Thunder and the Minnesota Timberwolves. Oklahoma City is only 1 game away from clinching a trip to the NBA Finals for the first time since 2012, the days of Kevin Durant and Russell Westbrook. Now, for anyone that knows me, I am a giant NBA fan, but I am actually a Milwaukee Bucks fan. That is my hometown. I am not a Thunder fan. I'm just along for the ride today. But there's a lot about this Thunder team that really fascinates me. First of all, the fact that it's the only pro sports team in this town, at least major pro sports here in North America. It wasn't originally located in Oklahoma City. It was actually a relocation of the Seattle Supersonics, obviously up there in Seattle. And it's just kind of amazing how since they moved to Oklahoma City in 2008, they've had a remarkable amount of success for a team that's just entering the league. Now, a big factor in that success was, of course, someone named Kevin Durant, who was already on the Supersonics when the team relocated here. Kevin Durant became a folk hero in Oklahoma City, and it was kind of devastating for people when he eventually left to go to the Golden State Warriors. But what I think is cool is after losing Kevin Durant and eventually Russell Westbrook, and before Durant they lost James Harden as well, all these stars kind of leaving the town and going other places, they were able to rebuild from the ground up. And now the team that they have, which is arguably better than any of the Durant teams, it was built the right way. It was built through the draft and through some really, really smart trades. And while Durant may have been the hero of yesteryear here in Oklahoma City, now it's the likes of Chet Holmgren, Lou Dort, Jalen Williams, and of course, the current MVP of the league, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. There's a lot to like about this team, and it's definitely got that small town vibe of my Milwaukee Bucks, which I think is why there's something near and dear to my heart about all of this. When we won the NBA Finals in 2021, it was one of the greatest moments of my life, without a doubt. Something that I never thought I'd actually see happen in my lifetime. So I can just feel the energy in the city today. They are 1 game away from a trip back to the finals, and people are hungry for it.
We're starting our day here at Scissortail Park.
Kind of an odd name, to be honest, but I think it comes from, there's a bridge up there that has a really cool kind of modern design. Besides the weird name, very, very cool park.
I'm just so blown away with how clean and upkept it is. I mean, people have been mowing the lawn, it feels like nonstop today, and there's not a single piece of trash in this park. It's just so beautiful, and there were public restrooms which were so clean. So A+ from us for Scissortail Park.
Yeah, there's a ton to do here. People are out here with their kids. There's a water park.
And it's right next to the Paycom Center where the team will be playing tonight. So this feels like kind of the central hub of this city.
I am really excited that we decided to make this stop. I think a big theme of this year for us is trying to explore places that we never would have really explored before. Because we've been to a lot of the states already. I mean, I've been to 32 of the 50, Sydney's been to 28 of the 50, but a lot of those times we were just going to the biggest city or the capital city, and this country is just so big, and every single one of the states has something to offer. So being here in Oklahoma on a day that's so special for the city and for the state, really, really excited that we're here. This is one of the highest points in the park, and you can really see the skyline behind me, and right about there, that is the Paycom Center, the home of the Oklahoma City Thunder. And I think it's cool too, because as we've been walking around, we've been seeing a lot of the murals around and a lot of the temporary posters they put up by the convention center and stuff with all the players. Oh, I see the Ferris wheel now.
Oh yeah, that's so cool. So yeah, I don't know if Route 66 goes through Oklahoma. I know it's from Tulsa, somewhere from Tulsa to Oklahoma City, like that route. But there's a Ferris wheel here, and it's a famous Ferris wheel because that Ferris wheel was at the end of the Santa Monica Pier in California. It was an old one that they somehow acquired. I'm not sure. Also, we don't know a lot about Oklahoma, so if you're from here, please leave us some facts in the comments. We'd love to read that. Along the Route 60 route, there's a lot of little quirky attractions you kind of jump off and see, and I think that's one of them. And honestly, our first impressions of Oklahoma City are pretty fire. Like, was not expecting to be blown away, and so far I am.
It's really making me wonder, like, what else are we missing? What are the other cities we're overlooking? Because this happens with, you know, our little home city of Milwaukee, where we met. I love Milwaukee, and I think it's one of the best cities in the country. It's a lot like a little mini Chicago,
right? But
it gets overlooked. People think it's just, you know, there's nothing there and it's not even worth checking out.
And I think that's the whole point of like this new little series we're going to do on our channel of like, we're going to explore our own country, but to places that we might not have thought about visiting otherwise, like Oklahoma City.
Just like here in the OKC.
This year marks the 30th anniversary of the Oklahoma City bombing, the deadliest act of domestic terrorism in U.S. history, where 168 people, 19 of which were children in a daycare center, died in a bombing of a federal building. This memorial and museum stands as a symbol of strength in the wake of just unspeakable violence. In front of the museum entrance, there are a bunch of school kid drawings and handprints, and walking up to this, I almost lost it because I thought it was a display of artwork from the preschool, but they were actually drawings from all across the country, from schools sending their love to Oklahoma City after this tragic event. I also think this display of chairs in the courtyard is a very powerful message. It reminded me a lot of the Jewish memorial in Krakow, Poland. At the memorial, they have a survivor's plaque, which I thought was really interesting. You usually only see names of the dead etched in stone. We watched the Netflix documentary on our first night in Oklahoma City, and I would encourage everyone to watch it. I think up until very recently, the first thing that comes to mind when you think about Oklahoma City is the bombing. That is the first thing people who are not from here associate the city with. And I think that is basically why this basketball team has given this city another reason to be known for, to be written in the history books for something other than tragedy. It's pride and passion, and it's a rising from the ashes, and it's resilience. And I think all those things echo in this community. One thing about Max is that he loves to witness sport atmospheres. It doesn't even have to be his team playing. He just loves any kind of sporting event. So we heard this was the place to watch the game if you were not actually going to the game. It's a huge facility that is half indoor, half outdoor with plenty of TVs. So naturally, we showed up 2 hours before tip-off to ensure we got a seat.
Okay, all I have to say is wow. This city knows how to celebrate a major NBA moment. That was so much fun. We went to Fassler Hall, which is a German restaurant here in the Midtown district of OKC. and it was really incredible. I mean, just the atmosphere the whole time, everyone cheering. The game is basically over. It's the third quarter. It's not over, actually, but it is completely over. The way that this team has just dominated Minnesota, I'm really impressed, and I'm fully convinced that they're going to win the whole thing. This is timestamped May 28th, 2025, before the finals even begins. My prediction is out there. I think OKC is going to win the whole thing. And I do have to admit, the Indiana Pacers knocked out my Milwaukee Bucks, so I will obviously be cheering for OKC over Indiana if that ends up being the matchup. They light up the skyscraper with the OKC logo, and there's little thunderbolts coming into it. I mean, just everything about this experience has been amazing. I'm so glad we got here just in time to witness this. You know, we've got the New Yorks and the LAs and the Chicagos of the world, but it's really special when a small market team can be built the right way. It takes a long time. I mean, this Thunder team was not very good 5 or 6 years back. It's just been built the right way. I have so much respect for Sam Presti, the general manager. What a special moment for the city.
This morning, we walked around the Wheeler District, which is a modern housing development where there are a ton of identical houses painted in different colors, and it's marketed as a 100% walkable neighborhood. I get the idea, and I was actually wowed that we found this in OKC. The community has a brewery and a coffee shop, but not a grocery store of any kind. So what's the point of living in a walkable neighborhood if you cannot walk to get food? I feel like there would be such a lack of privacy, and starting at $400K for a house that doesn't even have a garage is kind of crazy. We then drove 20 minutes to Norman, Oklahoma, which is home to the University of Oklahoma Boomer Sooner. This walk around campus completely had me thinking, why the heck did I not even consider going to a big school like this? All of the buildings matched, and the lawns were beautifully manicured. I think I was ready to go back to school when I saw the library. OKC was a sneaky good food city, so we had to give a shout out to some of these places that we went to. Starting off with our very first meal at Empire Slice Pizza. They have a daily slice special for $4.50. Next, Big Truck Tacos, a very casual eatery. They have a mystery taco called the Fifth Amendment, where it's just up to the chef's discretion that day what he wants to make. For lunch one day, we went to this Vietnamese restaurant and had some lettuce wraps and banh mi. Stopped for ramen one night. We went to Stitch Cafe for coffee several times, but only got the breakfast burrito once, and it was life-changing, so good. And on our last night, we treated ourselves to ice cream at Boomtown Creamery, a very, very popular spot. So cool, you can order a flight of scoops. I picked 3, Max picked 3, and we were very, very happy.
It's our last night in what ended up being such an enjoyable week here in Oklahoma City. We discovered a place where I don't know if we would have gotten to if it wasn't for what we're doing here on YouTube. And I'm so happy we did because it's so much cooler than we expected. I think we came into this part of the trip thinking this was like a good stopover place. It was just going to be a nice place to maybe get some work done where we weren't going to have to deal with bad traffic or anything like that. But actually, there's a lot to do here, and the fact that we came during the Thunder's playoff run too, that made it a little more exciting as well. As we're getting ready to leave, I just wanted to talk a little bit about what I think about this city as far as a potential place for Sydney and I to live. Because a big reason why we're doing all of these travels, especially in the US, is that we have absolutely no idea where we want to live. We could end up back where I'm from in Wisconsin. We could end up on the East Coast. We could end up on the West Coast. I have absolutely no idea. I don't know if there's even like a top 3 or 4 or 5 locations that we think we could end up. There are certainly places that we've really liked, and certainly places that come to mind as like our favorite places in the country, but they obviously all have pros and cons. No place is perfect. And when we do the comparison of like, what do we like about Denver? What do we like about San Diego? What do we like about my hometown, Milwaukee? There's good and bad when it comes to all of it. So I really do think that a big part of this road trip is going to be discovering things about places that we didn't know before, and having these conversations of like, could we live here? What are the pros and cons? So I'm gonna start with the positives. What I really liked about Oklahoma City was the size. I think it's a perfect size city in a lot of ways. It's big enough where there's enough to do to keep you busy. There's enough to keep you occupied and not bored. But if you lived here, you could have a rotation of favorite restaurants, favorite neighborhoods to hang out. And there's even things to do outside of the city, like go to Norman, which is the college town that's only about 25 minutes away. It's a really nice perk to have that because, you know, they have the professional basketball team here, the Thunder, but they don't have a professional football team. I think a lot of people probably really identify strongly with the Oklahoma Sooners football team, and they can go to those football games in just a 25-minute drive. So there's definitely enough to do, and there's aspects of a major city, like this awesome skyscraper right behind me, the tallest in Oklahoma City, and then the really, really successful NBA team that they have right now. Those feel like big city components. But on top of that, you have the convenience of a smaller city. And that really showed, because we had our car down here, which is so nice to finally have a car. A lot of times we're relying on trains and buses and stuff like that. But we really noticed how easy it is to get around here. Everything that we did, and we explored uptown, midtown, downtown, this Bricktown area. Every time we put something in the navigation, it was 7 to 12 minutes away at the most. Sometimes it was even like 4 or 5 minutes away. So I would say really nice size. Big enough where it feels kind of like a big city. Small enough where it's very, very convenient. Even parking, for the most part, was very convenient in my opinion. I'm sure that there's some Oklahomans that may disagree with me on that, and I'm sure that when there's, you know, a big Thunder game going on or some big event coming into the city, that might not always be the case. But this week that we were here, we never had trouble parking, and that is just a luxury in a lot of ways. Sydney and I lived in Chicago for 4 years, and parking is almost impossible sometimes when you're in River North or Lincoln Park or the Loop. On top of the general convenience, I also really liked the setup of the city. I just think it's really well laid out. It's kind of a grid style, so even if you don't know the exact way to get somewhere, you can kind of figure it out with the numbered streets and everything like that. And they have the districts of the downtown area, the midtown area, the uptown. Another aspect I really, really liked is that there seems to be a sense of identity within the city. People are proud to be from Oklahoma. People are proud to be from OKC. And a lot of that probably has to do with the sports teams and just having things to unite people. We saw so many Thunder flags while we were here. And obviously it was a good time for that with the playoffs going on, but we were amazed at how many Thunder flags we saw, not just in people's houses and yards, but also businesses, restaurants. Everyone had their Thunder colors out and everyone was supporting the team. I love that sense of identity. That's something that speaks very strongly to me as someone from Wisconsin. If you know anything about Wisconsin, you know that we love that we're from Wisconsin, and we always talk very highly of our state and our sports teams. Now, because Sydney and I are not native Oklahomans, that probably is a component to why we wouldn't end up here. This is we don't really have any connections here. We don't have family that live down here. We've never really lived here before, so that would maybe be both a pro and a con, that the identity is so strong that if you're not from here, and if you're specifically from somewhere else, it might be kind of hard to assimilate into that. But with that said, it does seem like there are a lot of people from a lot of different places, but it seems like once they're here, OKC is their place, Oklahoma is their place. And that's probably why Sydney and I will probably never end up living in Oklahoma City. On top of that, let's talk about some of the other cons, because it wasn't a perfect place. I wasn't a huge fan of the weather, and I think it probably only gets worse. I don't think it gets better. It's very hot and very humid, and there's not really anything around. There's not like any big lakes. I think there is a lake just a little bit northwest of the city, but it's not very large. So it doesn't feel like there's a lot of places to escape the heat. On top of that, we are dead set right in the heart of Tornado Alley. This part of the country gets so many tornadoes, and we're basically right in tornado season right now, May to June. I think that would scare me a little bit because I just don't think there's a lot of places, again, you think about where you'd go in a situation, you're kind of just here. There's not a lot else going around. I'm sure there are some day trips that I'm just missing out. And if you are from Oklahoma, let me know if I'm missing out on any like major day trips you can get to from the city or just from anywhere else in Oklahoma. But it kind of seems like if you're in Oklahoma, you're kind of set right in Oklahoma. And if there are tornadoes that roll through, it kind of just feels like you're here for them, you know? Now, with all that said, I do want to acknowledge that I definitely know how localized tornadoes are. And it's kind of a silly thing to not want to live in a place because there's a lot of tornadic activity. Because even if you're in Tornado Alley, the odds of you actually ending up in a tornado are very low. But still, with that said, it would scare me a little bit, I think. And it's not like there's not tornadoes in Wisconsin. There's tornadoes all over the Midwest. There's even tornadoes in Florida and other parts of the country. So this isn't the only place in the world that's ever experienced a tornado, but they call it Tornado Alley for a reason. There's a lot of them here. And I think that would probably be a reason I wouldn't want to be located here. So in conclusion, could Sydney and I see ourselves living in Oklahoma City? I would say probably not. And that's not a huge knock on OKC. I just don't think it's the place for us. But with all that said, we were definitely pleasantly surprised with what we found here. And if we are ever just passing through and it's a convenient stop, I wouldn't be surprised if we end up here again just for a weekend. It's been really fun to kind of get to know this city. Were we here a couple days too long? Yeah, we probably were. But we really enjoyed the first 4 or 5 days here. And it was such a fun experience. If any of you are from Oklahoma City, let us know in the comment section what we missed, and we'll be sure to try to do that next time if we do end up here again. And thank you so much for watching. We'll see you in the next video, a new city and a new state.